Welcome back to, I guess, the second installment of what I am doing. I'm talking about the Dallas Mavericks today. So, I was just gonna talk about, like, if they will improve or, I get, what's the word for, like, get worse, I guess I'll just say. Whether they'll get worse or get better this next season. So, last season, or the season before that, they had one of the best offenses of all time, which was centered around Luka Doncic, of course. Their guy who they just signed to a 5-year, 200 something million-dollar extension, which is good for him getting paid. But he's obviously a great offensive player. Defensively, I don't know about, but offensively, he's a great playmaker. Great, gets his teammates involved, can dribble, and he just can finish, can shoot. Great player on offense, and he can really get your team to push the Clippers, like a very good team like the Clippers, to a very close series. But fortunately, they lost. But last season they weren't one of the best all offensive teams of all time, but they were still pretty good. And I think this next season the the Dallas Mavericks will probably stay around how good they were last season because they've improved and deproved. They've lost Josh Richardson, who was their starting shooting guard, who was good defensively, and but they kind of brought him in because with Luca, you kind of need shooters alongside him so he can pass to those shooters, and that's why they had such a good offense 2 seasons ago. But and Josh Richardson was not a good shooter. He shot like 33% from three, which is not below league average. So that's not what you want your starting shooting guard to be when you have Luka Doncic. So they got rid of him and they brought in Reggie Bullock, who's pretty similar, not as good. He was a better shooter last season, but he's not as good defensively. So they brought him in. They brought in J.J. Redick halfway through the season last year. Who else? They didn't make that many additions. They basically brought back the same team and made a few additions. But I think a very underrated pickup by them was Moses Brown. He's a young guy who had a breakout season last. I wouldn't say breakout because it's not like he was an amazing player, but he was like a nobody, end of the roster player, and he became a guy who averaged uh, about 8 and 9, and he's good, like high energy, just can get you good defense, can finish, and he's young too. So I think he was very good last season for what the Thunder had him for. So that's a very good pickup for them. So they have Moses Brown, who's a good defender and a good finisher, to back up Tingus Pingus, or Kristaps Porzingis, his real name. Or they play Willie Cauley Stein, but I don't like that guy. He's kind of weirdo. Anyways, so they could have potentially Luca at the one. They have Reggie Bullock at the shooting guard, or they have, excuse me, Tim Hardaway Jr. at the shooting guard, or Jalen Brunson. They can have a lot of options. They got a lot of shooters at shooting guard. So, yeah. Small forward, they could have Dorian Finney-Smith, who I like a lot. He's gritty and grind. He's a good grit guy, you know. He can play defense. He can hit the corner threes, so he's good for that. Then at power forward, you have Maxi Kleber, who can shoot, you know, and that's pretty much all he can do. But that's, like I said earlier, that's the kind of guy you want around Luka. And then center, you probably put Tingus Pingus, as I like to call him. So I think, and then off the bench, they have Moses Brown. They have whichever shooting guard they don't start. So they'll have either Jalen Brunson, Reggie Bullock, or Tim Hardaway Jr. And then they also have Boban. They have Dwight Powell, J.J. Redick. They also have Josh Green, who's a young guy last season, didn't get a lot of minutes last season, but I think he could still be good in this league. Trey Burke, another good, just backup guy, kind of short, but he's good off the bench. They picked up Sterling Brown, so they've got a lot of just average players, and then they got their two good players. So they just kind of have like an interesting team. It could be a situation where they trade Porzingis, which I think could work out well depending on what they get back. Because earlier on in the offseason, after Porzingis had such a poor playoffs, there were a lot of rumors that he might get traded, but he did not end up getting traded just yet. But I think they might want to trade him for better, like just a really good scorer, wing scorer to put aside Luka, because there were rumors they were wanted to sign DeMar DeRozan, who I thought could have fit very well, just like a secondary ball handler beside Luka, which I think could be very beneficial to him. Another secondary ball handler I thought could be Karis LeVert if Indiana, any of like the Indiana guards basically, because they got a Indiana is very another interesting situation because they can either try and go rebuild or they can push to make the playoffs. But Malcolm Brogdon, good secondary ball handler. Karis LeVert, good scorer. T.J. Warren, even I know he's coming off an injury, but he could still, if he comes off the injury, well, he's a very good scorer, as we saw last season or 2 seasons ago in the bubble. Some other players that come to mind with good scoring wings are I don't know. Anyways, so they could trade Porzingis for a secondary ball handler, and then that opens up more minutes for Moses Brown, who, like I said before, could be good for this team. Anyways, so that's what I think about the Dallas Mavericks. They have a very kind of like the Washington Wizards, should be a very interesting team. Like, I like talking about interesting teams. So it's very interesting to see what they'll do next season. But like I said, I think they'll hover around 4, 5, 6 seed next season in the West. But that's just my opinion. If you have any opinions, talk about them. Yeah. Bye.